Welcome to the Teaching Journeys podcast, hosted by Dave Roberts. Humanity possesses a unique skill, the ability to pass knowledge from one generation to the next. This podcast embraces that ability, offering learning opportunities through conversations with extraordinary guests. Dave aims to leave a positive mark on individuals around the world. So before you dive into today's episode, please share this podcast with your network, including friends, family, and colleagues. And please consider leaving a rating or review. Your support makes all the difference.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Teaching Journeys podcast. I'm your host, Dave Roberts, and today it is my pleasure to have as my guest Kimberly De Jong. Kimberly De Jong's journey of faith has been shaped by her parents, who raised her in the church, a faith which she remains steadfast to this day. She enjoys quilting, reading, and spending time with her 6 grandchildren when she is not writing. She lives with her husband of 49 years, Phil, in Central California. Her first book, Trusting God Through Life's Transitions, is a collection of devotions she has written to provide comfort, hope, and sisterhood to women facing struggles in their lives. She hopes to publish her memoir, With Me in the Storm, in 2026. It is about her relationship with her mom and her brain tumor story. Kimberly, welcome to the Teaching Journeys podcast. It's a pleasure having you on the program today.
It's a pleasure being here, Dave. I'm excited.
And I'm excited to have you share your journey with our listeners. And before we begin, we have to give props to a good friend of both of ours, Diana Wisga. Diana introduced me to you, thought you would be a great fit for the podcast and would align with the mission of the podcast. And it turned out that she was right on target. We had a great pre-podcast discussion, and we find ourselves here today recording an episode. So it's just great to be in the same space with you today.
Thank you.
And I have some questions, as you probably know, and I know you got some answers for me. So whenever you're ready, we'll get going.
I'm ready. Ask away.
Okay. Please tell our listeners about the experiences that have shaped your current life path and your life passions today.
Well, I learned how to truly trust God when I found out that I had a non-cancerous brain tumor. I would have been afraid, except because my mother had a brain tumor also. Hers affected her eyesight, my hearing. So, I should have been afraid because she was afraid. She was afraid for me. And I decided that I wasn't going to be afraid. I was going to put my total trust in God for this whole experience. This happened, it started out in 2019. And once I put it all in God's hands, I had an appointment with my primary care. She called audiology while we were in the building together. They made an appointment for me that afternoon. So I went to that appointment, found out I was losing my hearing, just like I thought. And from there, it was recommended that I have an MRI. I had an MRI. And then 2 days later, I had another MRI. And then I got referred to a neurosurgeon. And when I met with him, he said, well, I want you to meet with the hearing specialist. And so I had it set up that I was waiting for a phone call. And they said, well, we have a cancellation tomorrow. Could you come in? And I'm like, yes, I can. So every step along the way, God was pushing me through it quickly because I had kind of dragged my feet on it because I thought, well, I'm sure there's just something stuck in my ear and I can hear. Okay. So I'm okay with it. And I found out I wasn't quite so okay with it after all. So I did end up losing my hearing, but I totally trusted God to take care of me in the whole journey. Yeah.
I think that's fabulous. And I know particularly during challenging times, our faith gets challenged. And if we can
Mhm.
turn stronger to our faith, whether it be belief in God, whether it be belief in another form of a higher power, if we can turn that over and just say God or the universe, again, however we conceptualize that, we're not alone. I have learned that in my own life that God's plan or the universe's plan is a lot better than the one that I could have envisioned, even though it started out with circumstances that, if I look back on it, I would say, how could God's plan be better given the circumstances that I was dealt? But as it turns out, over time, his
Yes.
plan began to unfold, and I began to see that. And
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's been a difficult journey at times, but it has been also so special because of the fact that I have relied on him for everything. And something I never really expected is I have now been able to talk to people who have a brain tumor and who are concerned, okay, is this going to be okay? Is this a good doctor? All this stuff. And I can tell them about my experience and how well it went. And it's just been, it's amazing how many people you find out that have brain tumors after you find out you have a brain tumor.
yeah.
It just suddenly, oh, everybody seems to have one. But yeah.
It's amazing when you are presented with a challenge that you never anticipated being presented with, how aware that we become of other people who are experiencing the same
Yeah.
challenges. That's the other part of that, is that God, the universe, again, however we conceptualize our higher power to be, usually brings individuals into our path and who have, excuse me, those same challenges, and we end up building a community of support and a community of faith.
Yeah. Yeah. When I was younger, when my daughter was in elementary school, um, is when I really started writing in the first place. And what happened there is she's in sixth grade, and one of her classmates, we found out that she had AIDS and she became blind. And I was so impacted by how well my community responded to that, that I did end up writing a story about that. And I featured the different ways that people helped them, help their family. There was one lady that would read stories to her so that, give the parents a little break from it. But she had a blood transfusion because she had a heart condition when she was born. And they moved to our area, started going to our school, and then found that out because she lost her eyesight, and that's not typical for fifth, sixth grader to do. And so that's when she found out, and it it was a wonderful experience for our community. And I'm so glad that I went through that and I wrote about it, um, because it wasn't about me. It was about what other people had done for her and for her family. I'm just amazed at how people are able to help others just through small little things like reading stories to her. I also interviewed her aide from school. Because she was blind, she could not read anything. And so she had an aide that was helping her. She was there to have socialization with the classmates because she probably 6 months later died. But they didn't want her to just sit at home blind, doing nothing. So she went and lived her life. Everybody was notified that she did have AIDS and that they were taking precautions. If you didn't like that she was in your class, then your child could move to a different class. They weren't going to move her. So it was just a wonderful experience, a God experience with the whole community. So
Well, it was great that you were able to, with dignity and with honor, bear witness and share her story, and I know it did well for the members in the community who supported her, for her family, and that legacy will be ingrained because you had a part of that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Now, speaking of writing,
Uh-huh.
I know you have a book, and I'm going to flash this: Trusting God Through Life's Transitions. So, what inspired you to write it? What is it about? And what do you want readers to take away from it, Kimberly?
Well, it is a devotional book. It has 90 devotions in it, which include a verse and a prayer. I was noticing, because as I'm getting older, there are things happening to me. There are things happening to friends of mine and just people all over, that most of the women in the book I knew ahead of time. Others were friends of a friend, so maybe I didn't know them, but somebody else knew them. And they were willing to tell their stories of how some of them lost a spouse, others went through breast cancer twice. There was a couple that she found out she had breast cancer again, and within a month or so, he found out that he also had cancer. So they ended up moving into an apartment closer to the hospital so that they can get their treatments at the same time without having a 2 or 3 hour drive to get that done. And there's just it's a lot of sad stories, but there's also good stories where somebody, they were a widow, but she and her husband had made the plans ahead of time of what they were going to do when they retired. And she went ahead and did what they had planned out already and moved to a totally new community, but the community was near her children. There was a lady that had a heart transplant. Well, not that many people have a heart transplant, but they could see what she went through, and through all of that was months in the hospital. God took care of her and got her out of there. And she ended up, one of the reasons she had that surgery, because she needed it, number one, but she could have not had it, and that would have been the end of that. But she chose to have it because she had a daughter who did not have any children yet, and she wanted to be there when her daughter had children. And soon after her heart transplant, her daughter announced that they were expecting a baby, and she's now been able to spend time with that grandbaby. And it's really special for her because of what she went through, and to be able to come out and then have a grandbaby. They're very, very exciting and touching and emotional stories. But most of us, and this is particularly in the women's case, because this is written for women, um, it's just, it's probably gonna happen. Something's probably gonna happen. Maybe it won't be exactly the same as what everybody else's stories were, but you will see that you're not on your own. You are facing this with God. And it's just, to me, it ended up being so much better than I ever expected. I enjoyed it so much because I enjoyed hearing their stories and then writing about them. And yeah, that was my first book, and I'm really, really happy with the result.
Well, the choice you made for your first book, and in perusing some of the stories in your book, you got just a really great cross section of individuals, women with different challenges. There's reflection questions. You got something at the end of each chapter, so that
Mhm.
anybody who's reading it, any woman who's reading it, can just reflect back on what they've heard with the story, what they've heard with the devotional piece, and they can incorporate that in their own lives. And that's the beauty about different stories, and also with anthology books, is you get that really diverse overview, and there's something for everybody in your
Yeah.
book.
Yeah. Yeah. And even sometimes maybe their mom's going through it. It's just, it's not necessarily them, but it may be a friend, maybe a parent. There's, we all go through something.
Yeah, we do. And I've said this on numerous podcasts. We have no control over the challenges that are going to be presented for us in this lifetime. It's how we respond to it. It's how we utilize the resources that are presented to us. And it's also, I think, based on our determination to re-engage in living in spite of the tragic circumstances that have been dealt. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
I also wanted to ask you, why did you feel or believe it was important at this time to feature the stories of other women in your book? So why in 2025?
Well, because I personally had gone through some things, and there in the story, there's stories about I have a non-cancerous brain tumor. And so I talk about that a bit in one of the devotions. I've lost a parent very unexpectedly, and I have a devotion in there. But I knew that, okay, these are my couple of stories, but nobody's going to buy a book that has just like 5 stories from my life. I wanted to find more. And I hear of friends, relatives, strangers that have a story. And I've asked them, would you share your story? There were quite a few that said, no, I can't. I'm not at that point where I can share yet. And I understand that, even though a large portion of the stories have different names for them. They're not using their real name. If they wanted to use their real name, I was fine with doing that. I just wanted to make sure that that was not going to be a problem for them to have people read it and realize, I know that girl. So it just ended up, I needed these other women to make it a real book. And I know that there's stories out there because I hear of so many people with these stories. And yeah, it had to be more than just me on that.
Yeah, it makes sense. And I think the other thing is that whenever we hold space for other people's stories, whether it's in person or it's in writing, it inspires us. And I think it also, we learn from that as well.
Yeah.
And
Oh, yeah.
every story, it doesn't matter what stage of recovery they're in, or what phase of grief they're in, whether it's early, whether it's middle, whether it's later, it still has something to teach me.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Everything does. And because of the fact that I personally have gone through some hard times, it's, feel like I have been I've become more compassionate for other people and their stories. And even, I didn't necessarily write about all those stories, but we spent several years at our church that I found out about an organization that rescues girls from human trafficking, ages 10 to 17. And we started going every summer. We would go there, 5 or 6 of us from our church, and we would spend a Friday night there. We'd be Saturday all day working, and then Sunday we'd stay and have lunch with the girls, and then we'd go home. But we accomplished so much, and it was such a good feeling to know that these girls didn't know who we were, and it really didn't matter. We were doing something for them. We were painting a building or working in the area was in a hidden kind of area. They had acres of land. And so sometimes we'd work on the landscaping. We cleaned a pond. that was on the property. And we were still finishing it up, and the girls were coming by to go to lunch, and they were like, "Oh, it looks so good." And I thought, that's what we're doing it. We're doing it for you girls so that you can have a nice place to be at. And I don't know, I've just become so much more compassionate than I was when I was younger because of all the people around me.
And that's one of the gifts of the traumatic challenges that we're given in our lives is that, I mean, the saddest people that I know turn out to be the most compassionate souls around, and that sadness morphs into compassion for others, it morphs into service, and they leave a legacy of service because of the dealing with the challenges from their own sadness.
Yeah. 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 I've seen that.
Yeah,
Definitely.
and it's we look at we look at the negative a lot of times of traumatic circumstances and of death and of other forms of losses. But if we stick with that individual long enough, we see them come through the darkness, embrace the light, and then re-engage in life with purpose and meaning. And if we get a chance to witness that, Kimberly, it's like one of the greatest gifts that
Mhm.
that God can give us is allowing
Yeah.
us to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. It's just, you don't expect it to be, especially if you're going through something, you don't expect that to end up being a positive in your life, but yet it does, because you realize that it's not all about you yourself. It's about what God does in your life and what you can share with others about that.
And I think sometimes our greatest challenges are spur us to embrace the greater evolution of ourselves. And
Yes.
I mean, I never would have said that over 23 years ago with my own situation. But as I get older and as I look back on it, it's true. Those our challenges exist in service to us because it helps us find our greater purpose.
Yeah, I
So,
can agree with that.
all right, I want to shift the focus for a little bit. This question
Mhm.
occurred to me because I know your book is designed for women, but of course, for every woman, there's a man in their lives. So, yeah, so what if a man picked up your book? What can they learn about themselves and the woman in their lives if they chose to read your book right from cover to cover?
Well, I think some of the stories, as in, a spouse dies, a man can relate to that. I do have someone that purchased the book, and at night she and her husband are reading it together, which is not something I expected how it would be used, but they are. And he actually mentioned to me about how they were reading it together and enjoying it. And I thought, well, that's not what I planned, but it could. I mean, it can work both ways. It's specifically for women, but men can also learn more about their lives and the lives of others by reading these stories, because you're right. Most of the women in the book had a husband or had a husband. And there are two stories in there about two women that never did get married. They still have had men in their lives. Everybody falls in love with somebody, and whether they marry or not is not necessary. But yeah, I think that they can touch a man too, if he's in a hard spot, and he reads the stories and just looks at them as just human beings, not just a woman, but a human being that went through this really hard story. There's the story in there about a wedding. The mom and dad were out of town at their child's wedding. And while that was going on, one of her relatives, the mom's relatives, was killed by his son the day before, I think it was, the wedding. And that is a huge thing for them to get through. They had to get through the wedding, go back home, and get everything, that they weren't planning the funeral, but the relative was planning their funeral. And all these negative things going on when it's supposed to be such a happy time. But that's life. It's not, things do not always work out perfectly that
No.
way we plan them, because God's already planned it. And he already knows that it's not going to work out quite as nice as you expected it to, but it will work out in the end. So,
Yeah.
I think, yeah. And even to the book, I meant it to be for women over 40, but two of the women in the book were in their 30s when they got breast cancer. The one had to stop nursing her child so that she can go through the chemo and stuff like that. So it's, it's a wide variety of ages. The oldest person that I wrote a story about was in her 80s. She's still alive. And then the youngest would be these two women that were in their 30s when they had that happen. So it is a wide range of people involved.
Yeah, and it just proves that challenge can befall us at any stage of our lives, whether we're in the
Right.
early stage, middle stage, or the latter
Indeed.
stages of our lives.
Yeah.
I like the fact that you had heard that there was actually a couple that was talking about the content of the book. They were reading it together, and I
Yeah.
think that's a great
Yeah.
way to kind of break down, perceived barriers in terms of how men and women handle emotions, and I think it helps each partner understand each other better.
Right. Right. If you have a good relationship with each other, then these stories will not hurt your relationship, but they can help your relationship. Just to know how would we handle that situation,
Yeah. Yeah. So do you have any other anthology projects in the works planned for the future? If so, do you care to give our audience a sneak peek?
Well, I do have a memoir that I am working on that is going through my mother's and my relationship, and the fact that she had her brain tumor, and many years later I had a brain tumor, and how we reacted in those situations. And also our relationship kept getting stronger and stronger as we went through when my father died. I was the only child around. So I went to the hospital with her. I did, went back to her house. By then my sisters had come along too, and made phone calls to family and did all that stuff. And the book ends up with a situation where I did not think I could handle it, but I made it through it. And I didn't want to give you a spoiler alert, so I can't tell you what happened. But I do know also I'm currently paused on that book because of the fact that I am facing other health issues where I'm going to have a surgery soon, and then MRIs and stuff just to check on my existing tumor and see if there's anything that needs to be done anymore at this point. But yeah, so it's been it's kind of been hard sometimes writing the story because of the fact that it is so hit me deeply. The whole everything I'm writing about. It was just things that I did not expect to happen the way that they happened. I didn't expect my dad to die the day after he was saying that he could live up to 6 months longer. And then he died the next day. It just things that, they're going to happen, but sometimes, yeah, they don't come right when you plan it, and I really wanted him there one more Christmas. But when I think about it now, I think, well, how mean and horrible that would have been for my dad, because he would have been suffering so bad. And then we'd have our last Christmas and then he'd die. So really, it was not, my idea was not a good idea. And so yeah, it's a tough book in some respects for me to write, but I feel like there's other people out there, sort of like my devotional book, that other people are going through things and they need to know that they're not alone.
And, sometimes a lot of the work that we do to create awareness of ourselves and our relationship to the world around us, to create that kind of transcendent self, a lot of the work we do is usually the messiest work, that gets us to being the most transcendent when, we're revisiting a lot of our past, and, we take a look at what's happened and, happening in the present. Yeah, I think all those emotions are going to come up. But, Kimberly, I think it's going to make for a great book, because the emotions that come up are probably going to be channeled into your writing.
Yeah, it's stuff I don't normally talk about, but stuff that really affected me in my life and my growing up and, becoming the person that I am today.
Yeah. And, we have to look at the past, I believe, to understand who we are in the present and who we want to be in the future. I don't think we can avoid that.
Yeah.
And I think, I find for me that the older I get, the more I look back at the past, and it's just a natural part of how I deal with the world now. It's not only what I'm doing in the present, but the past invariably comes up, and randomly it may come up for me to look at to see, what can I learn from that experience when I was younger to make the last chapter of my life, the last chapter of my life meaningful. And, and I just I've kind of learned to roll with that right now, and, just see what the past has to hold for me as far as orchestrating, my present and future with the time that I have remaining. So,
yeah, well, everything you've gone through in your life, everything that all of us has gone through, shapes us to be the person that we are now, and helps us, I would think, to overcome some of the things that, as we get older, there are things that you just can't imagine that would happen, but sometimes it does. And if we never had anything happen before, it would be like, whoa, I never expected anything like this. I don't think I can handle it. But you learn that you can handle it.
Yep.
No matter how hard it is, you can handle it. So
yeah. And I think many of us have the innate will to survive, and, I think that in and of itself, the desire to survive leads to eventually the ability to thrive and to, re-engage in life with meaning again. So, but when your memoir does come out, let me know, because I want to be the first one to order.
okay, I will put that down.
Yeah. And we're recording this, so unless I edit it out, Kimberly, it's just, there's not going to be any evidence.
This will be the part you'll edit out. Yes.
No, I would not. I'm a man of my word. When I say I'm going to do something, I do it. So
yeah, no, I expect it will be out, if not this year, at the beginning of next year. So
it sounds good. I'll be looking forward to that, and
okay.
Maybe we can do a return engagement so we could talk more about your memoir in depth, if that's something you'd be open to down the road.
Oh yeah, I would be. I feel like too that I have become so open with sharing. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, it's the way it is. And I just have gotten to where it doesn't, I don't feel embarrassed or ashamed of what happened to me, because there's no reason to be
Yeah.
ashamed or, wish I could say, well, that didn't really happen, because it really did happen. So
Mhm.
I don't have a
Yeah.
problem sharing.
Yeah. And everything that happens to us, good or bad in our lives, shapes who we are.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. And my next books after that are going to be fiction, totally fiction, totally. I want to just write a story about 4 or 5 women that hang out with each other and do things together and go through things together, like
Mhm.
losing a spouse and that kind of stuff, just because that's what's normal for people my age. And it's not going to be very much bad. It's mostly going to be happy times with these
Mhm.
ladies that don't all know each other ahead of time. And so I'm looking forward to that. That will be fun. That will not be a hard thing.
No.
So,
Well, doing an anthology book, listing other and detailing other people's challenges, and writing your own memoir where you have to look at, not only the good times but also the not so good times.
yeah.
That could Those two projects by itself back to back are emotionally draining. So yeah, show yourself some grace, do
Yeah.
something fun, and give
That,
yourself a break and write about something that's going to be fun and light
yeah.
and
That's
but
what I'm
yet
planning.
but yet meaningful. So
hmm
Kimberly, if you could leave our audience with one thing, and you've left our audience with some good stuff today, but if you could leave our audience with just one thing today, what would that be?
I think that what you go through as you grow older is not, just realize it's not going to be the wonderful life you expected with all the wonderful things. There are going to be tough times, and it's going to be important for you to have friends that will be with you for those tough times. And I think I honestly can say I don't know how people make it through some of those tough times without having faith. And to me, that is faith in God. And I just encourage everyone that doesn't have faith to look into it, because it makes such big difference when times are really, really hard, and you can't get through it yourself.
No, and we as human beings weren't made to deal with challenges by ourselves. We need a community of support, whether it's a
hmm
faith-based community, whether it's a spiritual community, whether it's just a group that feel connected to. We need that to be able to
Yeah.
transcend those challenges. We can't do it by ourselves.
Nope. 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 Nope.
So now, if people want to get in touch with you, purchase your book, find out more about what you're doing, what's the best way for them to do that, Kimberly?
Well, they can follow me on Facebook. I I am posting 3 times a week on Facebook, and that is, you'll have that in the show notes, where
Hmm.
they can connect with me there. My book is available on Amazon. It, um, yes, there it is. And actually, I will say today, just a little while before I got on this call, I heard back from, find it. I got a congratulations. Your book, Trusting God Through Life's Transitions, has been awarded the bronze medal in the category Religion and Inspiration.
Oh,
So,
congratulations.
sure. Yeah, I got it. I thought, oh, that's so exciting. Okay, well, I have to calm down because of this interview. But yeah, I was pretty excited to get that. So I will
Um,
say that on my Amazon post soon. I'm waiting the let me give me the information to post on it. So
well,
yeah.
that's a wonderful honor and well deserved, considering the work that you put into putting this together and the courage of the women who came forth to share their
Oh yeah.
stories. So
Yeah.
it's a testament to not only you, but the entire community that you created that comprises this book. So once again, my heartfelt congratulations.
Thanks so much. Yeah.
Kimberly, thank you so much for being such a great guest contributor to the podcast today. I really enjoyed our conversation, and I look forward to future ones.
Yeah. Yeah. I do too. I have had a wonderful time today. I've been looking forward to this and so excited for this to come out and people to be able to watch it and hopefully be affected positively by this. And I think they will be. I think they will be.
Yeah, I suspect that our conversation, and particularly your journey, is going to impact a lot of my listeners. So I'm looking forward to when we release the episode and to see what the response is that we get. So again, thank you very much, Kimberly.
You're welcome. It's very nice being here.
Thank you. And with that, that's a wrap on another episode of the Teaching Journeys podcast. I'm your host, Dave Roberts, wishing you peace.